So good afternoon, Elaine, and thank you very much for joining me today to talk about your experiences of fostering siblings.
Hi there.
Hi. I thought we could just begin by getting a little bit of background about you and your family.
Okay, no problem. First of all, I'm married. Me and my husband have been married for 15 years. We have one daughter between us, who we had quite late in life. I was 38. Although we tried for another child, it didn't happen, which is why we started considering expanding our family through either fostering or adoption. And that's kind of how that sort of all started. We live on a large family farm, and we have plenty of space, and we're out in the countryside, which is another reason why we wanted to expand our family, because we didn't want our daughter growing up as an only child and in almost such isolation.
And so you've been fostering for about 6 years now, is that right?
6 years tomorrow, in fact. 6 years tomorrow is the anniversary of our first placement.
Fantastic. And in fact, that placement, they're still with you. You're fostering two brothers, and they've been with you for those full 6 years, haven't they?
They have, yes. Which is quite ironic, really, because when we first went into fostering, I was very adamant that I wanted to do as many children as possible. I was looking at doing short-term placements, and I was also very struck on the idea of helping teenagers, because my previous life I had worked with teenagers, so I thought that I would be quite good at that. However, going through the fostering journey via the application process, which takes a few months, enabled us the chance to look at all the options and consider all of the options. When we had our house visit, the social worker realised that we had quite a large house with spare bedrooms, and so mentioned the word sibling placement, which was the first time I even realised that, of course, there must be sibling groups as well as single children. So when we were nearing the end of our approval, I did say to my husband, I wouldn't be surprised if we got siblings. And yeah, guess what? We got siblings. And they came to us as a short-term placement because their case was going through court at the time. And during which, probably a few months in, they were awarded full care orders, which means they would stay in care at least until 18. And that's when we had to make the decision whether we would keep them and continue to do short-term placements, keep them and give up short-term, or vice versa. So it was a huge decision, because it's a big impact on our family, and my plan was to have short-term placements, and so that every time there was a gap between placements, me and my husband and my daughter could regroup. But at the end of the day, I couldn't see the boys go, because by that time I'd become fairly attached to them. I could see them starting to settle. So we agreed we would keep them. 6 years tomorrow from the day they first arrived, which I still remember as clear as day. And they're with me, as I say to them, they're stuck with me forever now.
So really, long-term fostering wasn't part of the plan at all, but what have the benefits been of fostering long term?
No, it wasn't the plan at all, because like I said, I really wanted to do as many children as possible, but I pack that out now. To be fair, I still am available to do emergency placements, and I also do respite for a young girl that comes and stays with us once a month. So I'm still helping lots of other children, but the real benefit of having children long term is I've really seen my boys grow and develop and become more confident, and be happy and be healthy. And what's really lovely is when we sit down and look back on photographs or remember when they first arrived and what they were like. I mean, my little one, when he came to us, he was 5-ish. He didn't even know his colours. So you can understand what a journey he's had. He's really massively developed, and it's really lovely to see.
Yeah, and as you said, siblings also wasn't necessarily something that you thought about until perhaps you were made aware of the fact that there is such a need for foster carers for siblings. But I just wonder what is there anything unique about fostering siblings?
Yeah, it's been lovely actually, and it has really worked for our family because my two boys are brothers, and they have such a strong bond, and so they're really, really close to one another. And actually, I think that has helped them to survive their experiences. And it still means that our daughter, who's the girl, can still be special. You know, I can still have girly time with her, and that wouldn't put the boys out. So it does really work for us. And they have a really special bond, and they've really helped each other through. It has been challenging because both boys have presented very different behaviours over the years in terms of their coping mechanisms and their strategies. And there's a 3-year age gap between them as well. So that's been quite challenging. And my older one is the same age as my daughter. There's literally 6 weeks in it. So at this very moment in time, I've got 3 children in 3 different schools. But you know, everything is doable with the right support. Everything is all doable, and I really feel like I have been through the ringer on some occasions. But when you're at the other end of it, it's incredible, and it's really rewarding.
Yeah. And how have you dealt with some of those more challenging times? What support have you had?
So the children each have their own social worker dedicated to them, and we as the foster carers have our own social worker as well. So you're able to sound off, get advice, and they just help. I always joke with my social worker, she just keeps me on the track. And every now and then I veer off the track or my wheels come unattached, and she picks me up and she puts me back on the track. So having the social workers just in the background as and when you need them is incredible. I also have a few friends that I've made along the way that are foster carers, and they're the really, really best friends to have when you're doing this, because your own best friends who don't do fostering to the best will in the world don't get it. It's really only other foster carers that truly get what you're going through. So it's good to have that kind of support as well.
Definitely.
I've also done a lot of my own reading over the years as well. So it's good to kind of educate yourself, and there's some books and some amazing books out there on child attachment disorders and trauma, etc. So I read as much as I can as well, so that you can understand where the child is coming from.
And that's really important, isn't it? It's just that it helps you to recognise, as you say, what it is that's behind the behaviour that you've seen.
Yeah, because when they're acting out, they're really just communicating to you. So you've got to kind of try and work out what's going on inside their heads. Not that they're just being naughty or rebellious or etc., that they are trying to tell you something, and you've got to help work out what that is, so that you can help them.
I wanted to ask you a question about contact. So that's a word that we use to mean the contact that children in care are having with members of their birth family. And I know the 2 boys that you look after are part of a bigger family group. They have other siblings. So how has contact been for them?
Well, now after 6 years, contact is really lovely, to be fair. They see mum on every contact, which is every 6 weeks. They see mum for 2 hours in a supervised setting. Some of the visits, their siblings come as well, and they have on occasion seen their grandparents. So they really have maintained a good contact with their family, which is important because at the age of 18, they're going to be able to go and have a relationship with their family. And so maintaining that contact and building that relationship over these years, I think, has been important. Initially, it was tricky. Foster carers do genuinely say that children can really act up around contact, because they can get wobbly in the run up to contact, and then a few days following contact. It can go on for days. And once I really got to know my boys, I would know whether, something had happened at contact that had upset them, and they could be a bit wobbly for a few days. So yeah, around contact is tricky, but it is incredibly important.
Yeah, and as you said, that's actually that's become part of their routine now, hasn't it? 6 years on, and they know that they'll be coming back to your house at the end of it.
Yeah. And when you've got children in long-term placements, they're much more settled and they're much more secure, and they feel much more safe than children sort of still in that process of moving around, trying to find their forever family, I suppose. So because they've got strong, safe, secure foundations, go into contact now for them over the years as it's much more settling now. I wouldn't say it's still not tough for them. It is hard for them to go and see mum and then to have to say goodbye, but it's not a traumatic experience for them anymore. It's quite an enjoyable one now.
Yeah. So if anybody is watching this and they're thinking about fostering, what advice would you give them?
Oh, my advice would be to, quite frankly, just get on with it. If you've spent some time thinking about it, then there comes a point where you have to take action. And that's what me and my husband decided to do. We decided to embark on the application process. Step 1, get the application form, fill it out, send it off. Step 2, you'll get a home visit. Step 3, you'll be assigned a social worker, and then you'll find that you're on that journey, on that process, which for some can take 6-7 months. For us, it took 10 months. So that gives you plenty of time as you're going through the process to decide if it is for you. That's where you'll get all your answers, all your questions answered. That's when you'll go through some training, etc. And it's only really by going through the process do you find out if it's for you or if it's not for you. You're not committed from the minute you fill in an application form. That just gets the ball rolling. So my advice is stop thinking about it, get the application form sent in, and get that ball rolling.
Yeah, and it's obviously been a very positive experience for you and your family. You were mentioning your daughter earlier.
Yeah, no, it has been a really rewarding experience, and not one that I regret in any way, shape or form. Prior to going into being foster caring family, I was a career woman, and I had a pretty tough job. I would honestly say that this is the toughest thing I've ever done. But if you're up for a challenge and you feel strong enough, you have to be strong enough emotionally to take on children with trauma. But it's the best thing I've ever done. And our daughter was 7 when the boys arrived, and they're all just about the same age. And it's been really good for her as well, because she was an only child, and she's now grown up knowing what it's like to be part of a sibling group. Again, there have been ups and downs with our daughter, but overall I would say it's been a massively positive experience for her. And now when I hear them bicker, it's proper just sibling rivalry. And actually it's quite nice to hear.
That's wonderful. Is there anything else you wanted to
add? I would just say to anybody who's thinking about it, get on and do it. Make some friends with people that already foster care. Ask all your questions. But if it's right and it's meant to be, it will work out for you. And yeah, just it's an amazing job.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much, Elaine. Thanks for joining me and for sharing your experiences.
You're welcome. Thank you.